The courtroom doors swing open with a force that makes the bailiff flinch. A teenager storms in, 17 years old, designer sneakers squeaking against the old marble floor, a leather jacket that probably costs more than most people's monthly rent draped carelessly over his shoulders. His name is Tyler Jennings, and from the moment he enters Judge Caprio's Providence Municipal Court, everything about him screams privilege and contempt. The courtroom gallery is packed this morning. There's an elderly woman clutching parking tickets in her trembling hands, a young father nervously adjusting his tie, a college student with textbooks still tucked under her arm. They all watch as Tyler approaches the bench with the kind of swagger that makes people uncomfortable. His phone is out. He's scrolling through something, thumb moving lazily across the screen, not even bothering to look up. Judge Caprio sits at the bench, reading glasses perched on his nose, reviewing the case file. He's seen thousands of defendants walk through these doors, the scared, the defiant, the broken, the hopeful. But there's something about this young man's energy that immediately tells him this morning is going to be different. He glances up, his warm brown eyes taking in the scene. The teenager still hasn't looked at him. Still hasn't put the phone away. "Good morning," Judge Caprio says, his voice gentle but carrying that natural authority that comes from decades on the bench. "You must be Tyler Jennings." Tyler finally looks up, barely. His eyes flick toward the judge for half a second before returning to his phone. "Yeah, that's me," he mutters, his tone dripping with boredom. The bailiff steps forward. "Sir, you need to put your phone away and show respect to the court." Tyler rolls his eyes so dramatically that people in the back row can see it. He shoves the phone into his pocket with exaggerated annoyance, like he's being asked to donate a kidney. "Fine. Whatever. Can we just get this over with? I've got places to be." Judge Caprio removes his glasses slowly, folding them with care and setting them down on the bench. This is one of his tells. The people who know him, who've watched his court for years, recognize this gesture. It means he's shifting gears. It means he's really seeing you now. "Places to be," he repeats softly, almost to himself. "Well, son, you're in my courtroom now, so this is the place to be. Let's talk about why you're here." He opens the file, and his eyebrows rise slightly. The charge is parking violation, multiple unpaid tickets, actually. 7 of them, accumulated over the past 5 months. Total fines, $850. But there's something else in the report that catches his attention. A note from the parking enforcement officer: defendant was verbally abusive when cited. Threw tickets on ground. Stated his father would take care of it. "Tyler," Judge Caprio begins, his voice still calm, still warm, "I see here you've accumulated quite a few parking tickets. 7 tickets in 5 months. That's more than 1 a month. What's going on? Why aren't you paying these tickets?" Tyler shifts his weight from one foot to the other, arms crossed over his chest. "Because they're stupid. The parking rules in this city are ridiculous. I shouldn't have to pay for parking when I'm just running into a store for like 5 minutes. But you do have to pay," Judge Caprio says gently. "That's the law. Those parking spots are regulated for a reason so everyone has a fair chance to use them. When you don't pay, it's not fair to everyone else who follows the rules." "Whatever, man." Tyler's response is dismissive, almost mocking. "My dad's a lawyer. He said these tickets are probably invalid anyway. He was going to handle it, but he's busy, so he sent me instead. Just tell me what I owe and I'll pay it." There's a murmur in the courtroom. The elderly woman in the gallery shakes her head. The young father looks down at his own hands, thinking about how hard he works for every dollar. Judge Caprio leans back in his chair, studying the young man before him. His expression hasn't changed, it's still patient, still kind, but there's something deeper happening behind his eyes. He's reading Tyler the way he reads everyone who comes before him, looking past the bravado, searching for the truth underneath. "Your father's a lawyer," Judge Caprio says. "That's good. Education is important. Hard work is important. But Tyler, let me ask you something. When you got these tickets, when the officer approached you, what happened? The report says you were verbally abusive." Is that true? Tyler shrugs, uncrosses his arms just to cross them again. The guy was being a jerk. I was parked for like 2 seconds and he's writing me a ticket. I told him it was BS and threw the ticket away. Big deal. It is a big deal, Judge Caprio says, and now there's a slight shift in his tone, still gentle, but firmer, like a grandfather who loves you but won't let you get away with bad behavior. It's a big deal because that officer is doing his job. He's a human being who deserves respect, just like you, just like me, just like everyone in this courtroom. When you disrespect him, you're disrespecting all of us. Look, are you going to lecture me or are we going to settle this? Tyler reaches into his jacket pocket and pulls out a wallet, thick, leather, expensive. He opens it, revealing a stack of crisp bills. Without counting, without even looking at the amount, he pulls out the entire wad and walks up to the bench. Here. This should cover it. $8.50, right? What happens next makes everyone in the courtroom gasp. Tyler doesn't hand the money to the bailiff. He doesn't place it respectfully on the bench. He tosses it toward Judge Caprio. The bills flutter through the air like leaves, some landing on the bench, some falling to the floor. One $20 bill lands right on top of the case file. Tyler smirks, proud of himself, like he's just completed a successful business transaction. There. Paid. Can I go now? The courtroom goes completely silent. The kind of silence that feels heavy, that presses down on your chest. The bailiff's mouth is actually hanging open. The court clerk has stopped typing. The elderly woman in the gallery clutches her chest. Even the most jaded court watchers, the people who've seen everything, can't believe what just happened. Judge Frank Caprio sits perfectly still. His hands are folded on the bench in front of him. He's looking at the scattered money, at the disrespectful display, at this young man who clearly has no idea what kind of fire he just lit. But Judge Caprio doesn't explode. He doesn't yell. He doesn't reach for his gavel and start issuing contempt charges. Instead, he takes a slow, deep breath. He picks up his glasses and puts them back on. And when he speaks, his voice is so quiet that everyone in the courtroom leans forward to hear. Tyler, I need you to do something for me. I need you to pick up that money, every single bill, and hand it to my bailiff properly. Can you do that for me? Tyler stands there, frozen, clearly not expecting this response. He expected anger, maybe, or a quick dismissal. He didn't expect this calm, measured request that somehow feels more powerful than any shouting could be. What? Why? I paid you. Just take the money. Because, Judge Caprio says, and now he removes his glasses again, making direct eye contact with Tyler, that's not how we do things here. In this courtroom, we treat each other with dignity and respect. So I'm asking you again, son, pick up the money and hand it to the bailiff properly. For a moment, it looks like Tyler might refuse. His jaw clenches. His hands ball into fists. But something about Judge Caprio's gaze, that gentle, unflinching, completely non-judgmental gaze, makes him hesitate. Slowly, reluctantly, like a child being forced to apologize, Tyler bends down and starts gathering the scattered bills. His face is red now, whether from embarrassment or anger, it's hard to tell. He collects every bill, straightens the stack, and walks over to the bailiff. He holds out the money, still not making eye contact. Thank you, Judge Caprio says simply. Now, let's start over. Come back up here and talk to me. Really talk to me. Tyler returns to his spot in front of the bench, but something's different now. The swagger is gone. He's standing straighter, but it's not confidence, it's discomfort. Good, Judge Caprio thinks. Discomfort means awareness. Awareness is the first step toward change. Tyler, I want to understand something, Judge Caprio begins, leaning forward on his elbows, his posture open and inviting despite what just happened. You're 17 years old. You've got your whole life ahead of you. You're clearly from a family with means, that's obvious. Your father's a lawyer. You've got nice clothes, you've got money to throw around. So help me understand, where does this anger come from? Why do you think it's okay to treat people the way you've been treating them? I don't know what you're talking about, Tyler mutters, but his voice has lost its edge. He sounds defensive now, like someone who's been cornered. Yes, you do, Judge Caprio says softly. You know exactly what I'm talking about. When you threw those tickets on the ground, when you threw money at me just now, when you talk to people like they're beneath you, that doesn't come from nowhere, son. That comes from somewhere. And I'm not trying to attack you here. I'm trying to understand. So talk to me. What's going on in your life? There's a long pause. Tyler's looking at the floor now, his expensive sneakers suddenly fascinating. The courtroom waits. Judge Caprio waits. He's good at waiting. He's learned over the years that silence is often more powerful than questions. If you give people enough space, enough safety, they'll eventually fill it with truth. Nothing's going on, Tyler finally says, but his voice cracks slightly. Everything's fine. Is it? Judge Caprio asks, his voice even gentler now. Because you don't seem fine to me, Tyler. You seem angry. Really angry. And angry people usually have a reason. So let me ask you some questions, and I want you to be honest with me, okay? Can you do that? Tyler shrugs, which Judge Caprio takes as a yes. Where's your mother, Tyler? The question lands like a physical blow. Tyler's head snaps up, his eyes suddenly wide, suddenly vulnerable. What? Why are you asking about my mom? Because she's not listed in your file, Judge Caprio says, tapping the paper gently. Your father's name is here, Richard Jennings, attorney at law. But there's no mother listed as emergency contact. No mother listed as guardian. So I'm asking, where is she? Tyler's breathing has changed. It's shallower now, faster. That's none of your business. You're right, it's not, Judge Caprio acknowledges, nodding. But I'm making it my business because I think it matters. I think it matters a lot. So I'm going to ask you again, with compassion, with care, where's your mom, Tyler? The teenager's face contorts, fighting against something inside him. His hands are shaking slightly. She's gone. She left. 2 years ago. She just left. Left? Judge Caprio's voice is barely above a whisper now. What do you mean she left? I mean she left. Tyler's voice rises suddenly, all that carefully controlled anger breaking through like water through a dam. She left me and my dad. She said she couldn't handle it anymore. She said she needed to find herself or some crap like that. She moved to California with some guy she met online. She doesn't call. She doesn't write. She doesn't care. She's just gone. The courtroom is so quiet you could hear a pin drop. The elderly woman in the gallery has tears in her eyes now. The young father is gripping his knees, thinking about his own kids waiting at home. This is the moment Judge Caprio lives for, not because he enjoys pain, but because this is where truth lives. This is where healing can begin. Tyler, I'm so sorry, Judge Caprio says, and the sincerity in his voice is so profound that it makes Tyler's eyes well up. That must have been devastating. To have your mother leave like that, that's not something any child should have to go through, no matter how old you are. And your father? How's he handling it? Tyler wipes at his eyes quickly, angrily, like he's furious at himself for showing emotion. He's fine. He works all the time. He's always worked all the time, but now it's worse. He leaves before I wake up and comes home after I'm asleep. He gives me money and tells me to handle things myself. He says I need to be a man. He says mom was weak and I can't be weak like her. Oh, son, Judge Caprio says, and there's so much pain in his voice, so much understanding. That's not fair to you. And it's not fair to your mother either, whatever her reasons were for leaving. You're 17. You're not supposed to have it all figured out. You're not supposed to be a man, yet you're supposed to be a boy becoming a man, and that takes time, and guidance, and love. Are you getting that? Are you getting what you need? I've got everything I need, Tyler says, but it sounds hollow now, rehearsed. I've got money. I've got a car. I've got whatever I want. Except what you actually need, Judge Caprio says. You need someone to see you. You need someone to ask how you're doing. You need someone to tell you that your mother leaving wasn't your fault, and that your anger is valid, but what you do with that anger, that's a choice. That's always a choice. Tyler's shoulders start to shake. He's fighting it hard, fighting against the tears, fighting against the vulnerability. I don't understand why she left. Was I not good enough? Did I do something wrong? And my dad, he won't talk about it. He acts like she never existed. He took down all her pictures. He won't let me mention her name. It's like she died, except she didn't die, she just decided we weren't worth staying for. Judge Caprio stands up from his chair, something he rarely does in the middle of a hearing. He walks around the bench, slowly, carefully, and approaches Tyler. The bailiff tenses slightly. This is unusual, but Judge Caprio waves him off. He stops a few feet from Tyler, maintaining a respectful distance, but close enough that his presence feels protective rather than authoritative. Tyler, look at me, he says quietly. Look at me, son. Tyler raises his head, and his eyes are red, filled with tears that he's too proud to let fall. Your mother's choices were about her, not about you, Judge Caprio says, each word deliberate and clear. Whatever demons she was fighting, whatever pain she was in, that was hers to carry, not yours. You were a child. You are still, in many ways, a child. And you deserved better. You still deserve better. But Tyler, what you're doing right now, taking your pain and your anger and throwing it at everyone around you, that's not making anything better. That's not healing you. That's just spreading the hurt around. Tyler's composure finally breaks. A tear slides down his cheek, then another. He doesn't wipe them away this time. I don't know what else to do, he whispers. I'm so angry all the time. At her. At my dad. At everyone. I feel like I'm drowning and nobody sees it because I've got nice clothes and a car and money. But none of that matters. None of it makes me feel better. Judge Caprio nods slowly, understanding washing over his features. I know, son. I know. And you're right, all that material stuff, it doesn't heal a broken heart. It doesn't fill the hole that gets left when someone you love walks away. But Tyler, what you did today, throwing those tickets on the ground, disrespecting that officer, throwing money at me, that's you trying to make other people feel as small as you feel inside. Am I right? Tyler nods, unable to speak, his throat too tight with emotion. I want you to understand something, Judge Caprio continues, his voice steady and warm. Every person you encounter is fighting their own battle. That parking officer who wrote you those tickets? He might have a sick wife at home. He might be working 2 jobs to keep his family afloat. The clerk behind the counter at the store where you parked illegally? She might be raising her grandchildren because her daughter is in rehab. You don't know their stories, Tyler. And when you treat them with contempt, when you act like you're better than them just because you have money, you're adding to their burden. You're making their hard days harder. I never thought about it like that, Tyler admits quietly. I was just so mad. About everything. I understand being mad, Judge Caprio says. Lord knows I understand. But here's what I've learned in my 70+ years on this earth, in my decades on this bench: anger that's not directed properly becomes poison. It poisons you first, and then it poisons everyone around you. So we need to find a better way for you to handle this pain. We need to find you some help. He walks back around the bench and sits down, but his demeanor has completely transformed. This isn't a judge addressing a defendant anymore. This is a grandfather talking to his grandson. This is one human being extending a lifeline to another. Tyler, I'm going to ask you some more questions, and I need complete honesty. Are you in therapy? Has anyone helped you process your mother leaving? Tyler shakes his head. My dad doesn't believe in therapy. He says it's for weak people. Your father's wrong about that, Judge Caprio says firmly. Therapy isn't for weak people, therapy is for strong people who are brave enough to face their pain instead of running from it. Which brings me to my next question, are you doing okay in school? Another shake of the head. I'm barely passing. I used to get good grades, but after Mom left, I stopped caring. What's the point? The point, Judge Caprio says gently, is that you have a future, Tyler. You have potential. You have gifts that the world needs, even if you can't see them right now through all this pain. But we need to deal with this grief, this abandonment, this anger. We need to deal with it head on, or it's going to destroy you. And I don't want to see that happen. Do you understand what I'm saying? I think so, Tyler says, his voice small and young for the first time today. He sounds like the 17-year-old he is, not the angry, posturing adult he's been pretending to be. Judge Caprio picks up his phone and makes a quick call, speaking quietly to someone on the other end. The courtroom watches, curious, as he nods and scribbles something on a piece of paper. When he hangs up, he looks back at Tyler with renewed purpose. Here's what's going to happen, he says. I have a friend, a very good therapist here in Providence who specializes in adolescent trauma and family dynamics. Her name is Dr. Sarah Martinelli. I just spoke with her office, and she's agreed to see you this week. No charge. Pro bono. Because she believes, like I do, that every young person deserves a chance to heal. Tyler's eyes widen. You're setting me up with a therapist? Right now? Right now, Judge Caprio confirms. Because I can see you need it, and because I'm not going to let you walk out of this courtroom and go back to drowning. But Tyler, that's just the first step. The second step is you need to start making amends for the way you've been treating people. Real amends, not just throwing money around. What do you mean? Tyler asks, and there's genuine curiosity in his voice now, not defensiveness. I mean, Judge Caprio says, leaning forward, you're going to write apology letters. One to every parking officer who cited you. One to my bailiff for the disrespect you showed this court. And one to your father, telling him how you really feel, not the tough guy act, but the truth about how much you're hurting. He won't read it, Tyler says bitterly. He doesn't have time. Maybe he will, maybe he won't, Judge Caprio acknowledges. But you need to write it anyway. Not for him, for you. Because part of healing is being honest about your pain, is putting it into words instead of acting it out through bad behavior. You understand? Tyler nods slowly. Yeah, I think I do. Good. Now, let's talk about these parking tickets. Normally, with your attitude when you came in here, with the way you threw that money at me, I would hold you in contempt of court. I could fine you additional money. I could make your life very difficult. You know that, right? Yes, sir, Tyler says, and it's the first time he's used any kind of respectful address since entering the courtroom. But I'm not going to do that, Judge Caprio continues, because I don't think punishment is what you need right now. I think you need compassion, guidance, and accountability. So here's my ruling on the parking tickets. I'm going to reduce your fines from $850 to $400. The other $450, you're going to work off through community service. Tyler looks confused. Community service? Like, what kind? I'm assigning you to work at the Rhode Island Community Food Bank, Judge Caprio says. You're going to spend 60 hours over the next 3 months helping to sort food, pack boxes, and distribute meals to families who are struggling. Families who don't have money to throw around. Families where parents are working 2 or 3 jobs just to keep food on the table. I want you to see how the other half lives, Tyler. I want you to develop some empathy, some perspective. The teenager is quiet for a moment, processing this. Then he asks, will that help? Will that make me feel better? Judge Caprio's expression softens even more, if that's possible. I can't promise it'll make you feel better right away, son. Grief and healing, they're not linear. They're messy. They take time. But I can promise you this: if you do the work, if you go to therapy, if you open your heart to seeing other people's struggles, if you start treating people with the respect they deserve, you'll start to feel like yourself again. Maybe not the self you were before your mother left, but a stronger, wiser, more compassionate self. A self your mother would be proud of, even if she's not here to see it. That last statement hits Tyler hard. His face crumples again, and this time he doesn't try to hide the tears. Do you really think so? That she'd be proud? I know so, Judge Caprio says with absolute certainty. Because despite everything, despite your anger and your pain and your acting out, I can see the good kid underneath all of that. I can see the potential. And if I can see it after knowing you for 20 minutes, imagine what you could become if you actually did the work to heal. Just as it seems like the hearing is wrapping up, the courtroom doors open again. Everyone turns to look. A man in an expensive suit strides in, briefcase in hand, looking harried and frustrated. He's in his mid-40s, with graying hair and the kind of perpetual frown that comes from too much stress and not enough joy. He spots Tyler at the front of the courtroom and his expression darkens. Tyler! He barks. What are you doing here? I told you I would handle this. Tyler's entire body language changes instantly. He straightens up, wipes his face quickly, and that defensive wall goes right back up. Dad, Mr. Jennings, I presume. Judge Caprio interrupts calmly, but there's an edge to his voice now, a protective quality. I'm Judge Frank Caprio. Your son and I were just having a very productive conversation. Richard Jennings approaches the bench with the kind of confidence that comes from years of courtroom experience. Your Honor, I apologize for the interruption. I was supposed to handle this matter myself, but I got held up in Superior Court. If you'll just tell me the fines, I'll write a check right now and we can all move on with our days. Is that what you think this is about? Judge Caprio asks, and there's genuine curiosity in his voice. Moving on with our days? With all due respect, Your Honor, my son got some parking tickets. It's not exactly a federal case. I'll pay whatever's owed, and we'll be on our way. Judge Caprio sits back in his chair, studying this father with the same intense, compassionate gaze he's been giving Tyler all morning. Mr. Jennings, when's the last time you had a real conversation with your son? The lawyer looks taken aback. I'm sorry, what? That's a bit personal, don't you think? Everything in my courtroom is personal, Judge Caprio says. That's the point. So I'm asking you again, when's the last time you sat down with Tyler and asked him how he's doing? Really asked him, and then really listened to his answer? Richard shifts uncomfortably, clearly not used to being on this side of questioning. I talk to my son regularly. That's not what I asked. I asked when you had a real conversation. When you asked him about his feelings, about his pain, about how he's coping with his mother leaving. The mention of his ex-wife makes Richard's jaw tighten. That's behind us. We've moved on. Have you? Judge Caprio asks softly. Because your son's standing in front of me, he hasn't moved on. He's drowning, Mr. Jennings. He's in pain. He's acting out because he doesn't know how else to process the abandonment he feels. And where are you? You're in Superior Court. You're writing checks. You're telling him to be a man and handle things himself. But he's not a man yet, he's a boy who needs his father. Your Honor, Richard says tightly, I don't appreciate. I don't care what you appreciate, Judge Caprio interrupts, and now his voice has real steel in it. I care about this young man standing next to you who's been crying in my courtroom because he feels invisible. Because he feels abandoned. Because the one parent he has left has checked out emotionally. So you're going to stand here and you're going to listen to me, Mr. Jennings, because I have some things to say. The entire courtroom is transfixed. No one moves. No one breathes. Even Richard Jennings, Esquire, with all his courtroom bravado, stands silently, perhaps recognizing that he's met his match. Your son came into my courtroom this morning with an attitude, Judge Caprio begins. He was disrespectful. He was arrogant. He threw money at me, literally threw it at me like I was some servant he could dismiss. And do you know what I found when I dug a little deeper? I found a heartbroken kid who's been left to raise himself. A kid whose mother left and whose father has emotionally checked out. A kid who's failing in school, who's angry at the world, who's crying out for help in the only way he knows how. Tyler is staring at his father now, tears streaming down his face, and there's something desperate in his expression, like he's silently begging his father to really hear what the judge is saying. You're a lawyer, Judge Caprio continues. You understand consequences. You understand cause and effect. So let me spell this out for you. If you continue on this path, if you continue to substitute money for presents, if you continue to tell your son to man up instead of helping him heal, if you continue to pretend that your ex-wife never existed instead of helping your son process that loss, you're going to lose him. Not legally, not physically, but emotionally. He's going to grow up into a man who's incapable of real connection, who uses money and status to keep people at arm's length, who's angry and bitter and alone. Is that what you want? Of course not, Richard says, and for the first time, his voice cracks slightly. I love my son. Then show him, Judge Caprio says simply. Love isn't a feeling you have privately in your heart, love is action. Love is showing up. Love is having hard conversations. Love is admitting when you're struggling too, because I guarantee you're struggling too, Mr. Jennings. Your wife left. That had to hurt. That had to shake your world. But instead of processing that pain, instead of seeking help for yourself and for your son, you buried yourself in work. You're running from it, just like she ran. And your son is caught in the middle, watching both his parents abandon him in different ways. Richard's face has gone pale. His hands are gripping his briefcase so tightly his knuckles are white. I didn't see it that way. I thought I was being strong. I thought I was setting an example. You're setting an example, Judge Caprio says, but not the one you think. You're teaching him that when things get hard, you shut down. You work. You avoid. You don't feel. Is that the man you want him to become? There's a long, painful silence. Tyler and his father are looking at each other now, really looking at each other, perhaps for the first time in 2 years. Tyler's face is wet with tears. Richard's eyes are suspiciously shiny. What do I do? Richard finally asks, and his voice is so quiet, so vulnerable, that it barely carries to the bench. What do I do? I don't know how to fix this. Judge Caprio's expression transforms into something so warm, so understanding, that half the courtroom is tearing up now. First, you admit you don't have all the answers. You just did that, so that's a good start. Second, you get help. I'm referring Tyler to a therapist, Dr. Sarah Martinelli. She works with families. I want you to go with him. Family therapy. Both of you. Deal with this grief together instead of separately. Family therapy, Richard repeats, like he's testing out the words. Yes. And third, you start being present. Not perfect present. You have dinner with your son. You ask him about his day and actually listen to the answer. You tell him about your day, including the hard parts. You let him see that you're human, that you're struggling too, that grief is okay and expressing emotion is okay. You be the father he needs, not the father you think you're supposed to be. Richard nods slowly, and when he looks at Tyler again, something has shifted in his face. The armor is cracking. Tyler, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I thought I was protecting you by staying strong, by not showing how much it hurt when your mother left. But I wasn't protecting you, I was abandoning you. I see that now. Tyler lets out a sob and steps toward his father. Richard drops his briefcase and pulls his son into a fierce embrace. They stand there in the middle of Judge Caprio's courtroom, two people who've been living in the same house but might as well have been on different planets, finally connecting. Finally grieving together. The courtroom watches in reverent silence. The elderly woman is openly crying now. The young father has his hand over his heart. Even the bailiff, who's seen countless cases, has to clear his throat and look away. Judge Caprio gives them a moment. He knows the value of these moments, how rare they are, how precious. He's not going to rush this. When father and son finally separate, both wiping their eyes, both looking emotionally wrung out but somehow lighter, he speaks again. "Gentlemen, are we ready to finish up here?" They nod, standing side by side now, Richard's hand on Tyler's shoulder. "Good. Tyler, here's what I'm ordering. $400 in fines, payable within 30 days. 60 hours of community service at the Rhode Island Community Food Bank, to be completed within 3 months. Weekly therapy sessions with Dr. Martinelli, starting this week. And I want a progress report. I want you to come back to my courtroom in 3 months and tell me how you're doing. Can you do that?" "Yes, sir," Tyler says, his voice stronger now, more genuine. "I can do that. And Judge Caprio? Thank you. For seeing me. For not just writing me off as some spoiled brat." Judge Caprio smiles, that famous warm smile that's made him beloved across the internet. "Tyler, you're not a spoiled brat. You're a hurt kid who was acting out. There's a difference. But here's the thing, you're not going to be that hurt kid forever. You're going to do the work, you're going to heal, and you're going to become a good man. I believe that. Can you believe it?" Tyler nods, and there's something like hope flickering in his eyes now. "I'm going to try." "That's all any of us can do," Judge Caprio says. "Try our best. Fall down sometimes. Get back up. Keep trying. And Mr. Jennings?" Richard straightens. "Yes, Your Honor. Take care of your son. Take care of yourself. And maybe, in time, you'll be able to forgive your ex-wife, not for her sake, but for yours and Tyler's. Carrying that anger, that bitterness, it's exhausting. Let it go when you're ready. Focus on what you can control, which is the relationship right here, right now, between you and your boy." "I will, Your Honor." "Thank you." Richard extends his hand, and Judge Caprio leans over the bench to shake it, another unusual gesture, but this is an unusual case. "Tyler, before you go, I want you to do something for me," Judge Caprio says. "Anything. I want you to turn around and look at the people in this courtroom." Tyler turns, confused, and sees the gallery full of faces looking back at him with compassion, with understanding, with encouragement. "These people just watched you fall apart and put yourself back together," Judge Caprio says. "They watched you be vulnerable. They watched you cry. They watched you reconnect with your father. And not one of them is judging you. Not one of them thinks less of you. In fact, I'd bet every single person in this room thinks more of you now than when you walked in here with that attitude. Do you know why?" Tyler shakes his head, overwhelmed. "Because we all struggle, son. Every single one of us. We all have pain, we all have loss, we all have moments where we don't handle things well. But the people who matter, the people who are worth knowing, they don't judge you for the struggle. They respect you for having the courage to face it. Remember that. The next time you're tempted to act tough, to throw money around, to disrespect someone, remember this moment. Remember that vulnerability is strength. Remember that asking for help is brave. Remember that we're all human, and we all deserve compassion." Tyler is nodding, unable to speak, the weight of the moment settling over him like a blanket. "All right," Judge Caprio says, his voice brightening. "Get out of here. Both of you. Go have lunch together. Talk. Really talk. And I'll see you in 3 months, Tyler. I'm going to expect a good report." "You'll get one," Tyler promises. "I swear." As father and son walk out of the courtroom together, Richard's arm around Tyler's shoulders, Tyler's head leaning slightly toward his father, the gallery erupts in quiet applause. It's not loud or showy, it's the kind of applause that comes from genuine emotion, from witnessing something real and raw and ultimately redemptive. Judge Caprio watches them go, a small smile on his face. Then he looks down at his case file, at the next name on the list. He takes a breath, centers himself, and calls out, "Next case." But before the next defendant approaches, the elderly woman from the gallery stands up. She's clutching her parking tickets, but she walks toward the bench with purpose. The bailiff moves to stop her, but Judge Caprio waves him off. "Your Honor," she says, her voice trembling slightly, "I just wanted to say thank you for what you did for that boy. My grandson is about his age, and he's struggling too, since his parents divorced. I've been so worried about him, not knowing how to help. But watching you with Tyler, you gave me hope. You showed me that underneath all that anger and bravado, there's still a good kid who just needs someone to see him. So thank you." Judge Caprio stands and walks around the bench again. He takes the elderly woman's hand in both of his. "Ma'am, what's your grandson's name?" "Marcus," she says. "His name is Marcus." "Well, you tell Marcus that Judge Caprio says he matters. You tell him that his pain is valid, and his struggles are real, and he doesn't have to face them alone. And you tell him that his grandmother loves him enough to come to court and watch a stranger's case just to find hope for him. That kind of love, that's what saves us. That's what gets us through. You understand?" The woman is crying openly now, nodding. "I understand. Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you so much." As she returns to her seat, Judge Caprio looks out at his courtroom, this space that's seen so much pain and so much grace over the years. He thinks about Tyler, about Richard, about all the broken people who come through these doors looking for justice but often finding something more important: mercy, understanding, connection. This is why he does this job. Not for the authority, not for the title, not even for the salary. He does it for moments like this, moments when someone who came in lost leaves found, when someone who came in alone leaves connected, when someone who came in angry leaves with hope. He sits back down, picks up his glasses, and opens the next file. But he's smiling. Because he knows that somewhere in Providence tonight, a father and son will have dinner together. They'll talk. Maybe they'll cry some more. Maybe they'll laugh. But they'll be together, really together, for the first time in 2 years. And 3 months from now, when Tyler comes back to report his progress, Judge Caprio knows what he'll see. He'll see a young man who's doing the work, who's healing, who's learning to channel his pain into purpose. He'll see a father who's showing up, who's being present, who's learning that strength includes vulnerability. He'll see what he always hopes to see in his courtroom: redemption. As the next defendant approaches, Judge Caprio looks up with that same warm, kind expression he gives everyone. "Good morning," he says gently. "Tell me your story. I'm here to listen." Because that's what Judge Frank Caprio does. He listens. He sees. He understands. And he reminds us all that justice without mercy is just punishment, but justice with mercy, that's transformation. That's hope. That's what changes lives, one case at a time, one heart at a time, one moment of genuine human connection at a time. The courtroom doors close. The gallery settles in. And the work continues, the beautiful, difficult, essential work of seeing each other, helping each other, reminding each other that we're all worthy of grace, all capable of change, all deserving of a second chance. This is Providence Municipal Court. This is Judge Frank Caprio. And this is where lives are changed, not through harsh punishment, but through radical compassion, one person at a time.